All right, we're back. So where we left off was where we removed our head off of our Newport vessel's trolling motor over here. Got to this point, put the cap on, took it back off. I'm gonna leave everything unwired until I get everything else wired up. So we're talking about we're gonna dry fit this up with the battery, make sure that the PWM and everything worked. But we haven't got there yet. I found out that I need to make some pretty critical decisions here about how I'm going to power this unit and how I'm going to utilize the kayak. Do I want it to be strictly a lake boat, or do I want it to be dual purpose where I can remove everything and still take this thing in the rivers and creeks? I'm going with the second option. I want everything on here to be removable. I want as few holes in my boat as possible. So let's talk about what we're going to do. We're going to build a box for our pulse width modulator. Right here I've got the Gamma Electronics TSC 12 volt PWM. This is it right here. This is rated for 40 amps, so this will work fine with my Newport vessel's 36-pound trolling motor. If you are going with a larger size trolling motor, you would need to use a more robust model, a little more expensive model that would facilitate the voltage that the larger trolling motor is going to, or the current that the larger trolling motor is going to pull. So for me, what I've decided to do is I'm going to take this little Plano field box, kind of like a plastic ammo can type thing. Has a latch over here, pops open, has some storage inside. Basically, I'm going to mount my PWM inside of here along with the fuse that comes with the Newport vessel's trolling motor. It's a 40 amp fuse. The PWM is rated for 40 amps. So it matches up pretty well with that. So my PWM and my trolling motor both have the same level of protection. For the battery, I am going to use this Minn Kota battery box. So it has the internal 60 amp trolling motor breaker. That'll just be redundant. Has the screw-on connects to the outside and the battery indicator for charge. Inside there's not really much to it, just some red and black wires with your fuses in there. I am going to mount a dead man switch or a kill switch somewhere up here on the top. That way my kayak doesn't run off and leave me if I, for whatever reason, fall out of it. For me, I think this is going to be my best setup. I'm going to use these trolling motor connector kits that you can get from Cabela's. And these are just quick connects that allow me to unplug everything, take my PWM, my battery, and my trolling motor off. And then the only thing that's left on my kayak that's going to be permanent will be this mount here that I haven't put on yet from One Objective. This is their quick mount system. And then the other permanent thing will be the navigation lights for the front. This is from Yak Power. I did my research and I really like these. They seem to reduce water intrusion. And a lot of people are using these with their Yak Power systems. They're very plug and play. So if I decide to put a depth finder or whatever on here, or some interior lights, however I want to outfit that, everything that I can get from Yak Power is just plug and play. I simply install it, plug it in, add power to it. So that's why I went with that. So that'll be the only two permanent features on my kayak, other than the steering cables, the steering kit. There it is, Bonafide SS series steering kit. And that's just basically some plastic tubing and some cabling to go back to your steering, and then the connections on your pedals for to hook the wire up to for steering. So I'm not worried about the steering being permanent, because if I do decide that I don't like the kayak, I'll definitely get a rudder system for this anyway, for paddling, because it really needs it. All right, let's figure out what we're going to do with this PWM. So I've already done some preliminary work to it. Nothing that you really need to see. I basically just took some 10 gauge red and black wire, positive and negative from the battery, and then M1 and M2 going to the trolling motor, and then on the hot wire added in the 40 amp fuse going to the trolling motor. Then we'll take another red wire, we'll go off of here, and that'll go out to the trolling motor and the black as well. We'll do that with the quick connects, those trolling motor connector kits, and then everything will be mounted inside of our field box. So let's get started. Alright, so let's get started mounting this PWM inside this box. So what I've done is I used the holes in the PWM as a template. Gotta figure out where I wanted it. It's actually gonna go that way. Mark those holes, drill my holes. Now we're ready to mount it. To mount it, I'm gonna use these little 632 1/2" stainless steel machine screws with a nylon lock nut, and that should hold it pretty well. I'm not going to use washers or anything, but it should be fairly simple, pretty straightforward. Alright, let's look what we've done here. I saved you the trouble of having to watch me put screws in this thing, but basically there's our PWM mounted inside of there. You see it's got a heat sink on it, and then there's our 40 amp fuse that's going to go to our trolling motor. So we haven't done anything, no rocket science yet. This red and black will go out to the motor. This red and black will go to the battery. So what we've got to do now is we've got to figure out where we want to cut our holes. And we're going to use a gland nut or a wire gland. These are from ABB. And the good thing about these is you don't have to put a lock nut on the back of it. So this is what I'll be using for any wiring inside of my kayak, because the Bonafide doesn't have very good access in the middle of the boat. So these, you just cut the right size hole, you pop it in, you screw it down, it locks on, and then you're able to run your wires through and tighten it down, cinch it down. So that's what we'll be using. I'm gonna go ahead and use a hole saw, or not really a hole saw, but this little stepper bit to drill my holes for those cable glands, and then we'll install these trolling motor quick connects, trolling motor plugs. They're $20 set, Cabela's or Bass Pro Shops, wherever you get them. There's the packaging. And then we'll install that, get our gland nuts on, and then our PWM box will be pretty much done. So stick with me. All right, just a little bit on these quick connect MPG cable glands. So basically, drill a hole. Nominal size, I believe, is something obscure like 23-30 seconds. I just used a stepper bit, kind of eyeballed it, went slow, got to the right size hole for the application. And basically, these things just snap in. So you see, you want to make it so that it just fits. Push it in and it'll snap into place. Then you just crank it down. There we go. And now it's locked into place. Now we're able to pull our wires through and we're done. This will be incredibly convenient in the kayak for when I run my lighting wires for the Yak Power navigation lights. Because I'm going to put my battery back here in the hatch, in the battery box. But Bonafide didn't give us an access hatch here. And this is a perfect place for one with all this unused space. I know this probably has a lot to do with the structural integrity of the boat, but there's got to be a way to put an access hatch here. That way you can get in to put either backing plates like for your track assemblies, or to add components inside of the kayak around your seating area. That would be really convenient. I'm sure they're working on it, but it'll get there soon. All right, so we're going to finish wiring this up. If you see over here, I've already got the front one installed. This will be going out from the PWM to the trolling motor. We see inside of here, these are going to my battery. This is our hot and our negative coming off of the PWM. Hot going through the 40 amp fuse and then out through to our trailer motor quick connect. So all we're going to do now is just pull these through. We left ourselves a little slack. Unlock those down. So now those are locked down. We'll take another one of these quick connects, and these already have the heat shrink connectors, butt splice already installed when they come from the out of the box. So we'll add this, and then we'll be ready to hook up our battery box and our deadman switch. Had a brain fart there. So the reason I wanted to say something, the reason you see this here, I didn't want to have splices outside of the box, but when I ordered these connectors, I ordered them because I was using 10 gauge wire, which is what this is, which is sufficient for what I'm doing and the poundage of my trailer motor. But the connectors came with 8 gauge wire, and the 8 gauge wire would not fit inside of the cable gland, so I had to do this. And it looks ugly and I don't like it, but it's what I got right now. So alright, I'm going to finish wiring up this one connector, and then we'll move on to the battery box. Okay, so we're back, and curiosity got me, so we went ahead and hooked this bad boy up. Where we left off last time, I was finishing up some wiring. So here you'll see my PWM box. This is coming from the battery. This one's coming out from the front, going over and going to my trailer motor. PWM's hooked up. I gotta rig the battery up because I haven't finished on that battery box yet. I actually haven't even started it, but curiosity got me. I wanted to see how this thing's going to work. So this is remote control. So this Gamma TWC TC12, whatever it's called, has a remote control, and then has a nice little lanyard loop here so you can put a lanyard through. I'll just use a retractable little thing that I can hook up to my flotation device, and that way it'll never go in the water. So we're going to test this thing out now. So the way this works, you increase or decrease your speed up here, forward and reverse, and stop. So right now we'll go ahead and hit forward. There we go. Increase our speed, decrease our speed, stop, reverse, increase, decrease, and stop. So our PWM works pretty well. We'll finish getting this battery box wired up. I'll put a dead man switch somewhere up here with a relay. Let me show you this relay if I can find it offhand somewhere. So this is just it's a SPST, or single pole, single throw relay switch. Just an automotive relay, but it's rated for 40 amps. So it's exactly what we need. 40 amp protection here, 40 amp protection to the trolling motor, and the 40 amp for the kill switch. So we'll wire this in here. So the kill switch will go to one pole, power to another pole, and then if the kill switch is popped, then it'll kill the battery going to the PWM. And that'll be how we stop it if we fall out of the kayak, which I don't intend to do, but sometimes you have a bad day. All right, well, I'll get back to you on the next one.